After a year of silence from the Pokemon Company, we finally got to get a proper look at Pokémon Legends Z-A. And while the reactions do seem to be a lot more positive than games prior overall, they're still pretty mixed. So I thought it'd be fun to go through and see what people are saying about this game.
Stop being a faggot. Thank you.
Starting off with the surprising amount of people who, jokingly or not, seem to be pretty upset about the fact that they won't be able to live out their lesbian fantasies between two teenage girls. Someone even made a fucking graph on how to pink pill the male protagonist so they could get around the gender lock. I'm honestly not sure whether I should be disturbed or impressed.
Maybe just what I need the buzz.
But for all of the gooners who plan on going into this game playing one-handed, they've still got the new Hex Maniac, who by herself is like most of the traffic coming in for this game right now, bro. This shit is actually crazy. At least if you're using the hashtag Pokémon Legends Z-A. We only got one image of this bitch and people just started going crazy. And speaking of going crazy, one thing that had a bunch of people up in arms were the starters. Now, I'd be lying if I said that I didn't think that this roster was a little bit lame myself, but seeing some of the visceral reactions that people had to them is just mind-boggling. There was even this one guy who was straight up campaigning for Cyndaquil to be in the game. He posted this image, which on its own is not that bad. But then you take a look at the replies, and anytime somebody mentions why Cyndaquil wouldn't be in the game, he goes to bat for Cyndaquil, giving these dumbass Android responses like, "Oh, well, this Pokemon was in the last Legends game too, so why can't Cyndaquil be in this game?" There's a big difference between common slop like Gyarados and starter Pokemon, and pointing to Pikachu being in most Pokemon games as if that's actually a comeback is just ridiculous. As that person said, Pikachu is the mascot, and while he does say that starter Pokemon are mascots, which is kind of true, they're not even close to the same level of popularity and fame that Pikachu is. He also posted this image of Charizard, which, as Charizard's #1 Glazer and defender, I feel like I need to say something about this. And luckily this time somebody was in the replies coming to Charizard's defense, but I still feel like, low-key, we need to stop with this flagrant disrespect of the GOAT. Niggas act like other Pokemon don't have just as much privilege as Charizard does, and a lot of said privileged Pokemon come from the same region as Charizard. And some of these forms aren't even exclusive to Charizard. Literally every single Pokemon in existence has a shiny form. There were mad Pokemon in Detective Pikachu, most of whom were from Kanto. And Charizard isn't even the only Pokemon from Kanto specifically to have some weird alternate pattern form. I mean, are we really gonna sit here and complain about Charizard when this little motherfucker has 8 evolutions, one of the most broken Z moves of all time, 8 of the most broken signature moves of all time, and has been a fixture on pretty much every single female protagonist team in the anime, and I'm pretty sure 2 of them don't even evolve, so like what was the point of having them? Okay, so looking back, saying that most female protagonists have an Eevee was a little bit dishonest. The ratio is a lot more even, and it actually leans more towards more female protagonists not having an Eevee if you want to count all 3 of the Alola females. But even then, Chloe's entire story revolved around Eevee, and even looking past the anime, in both X and Y and Sun and Moon, there was an Eevee featured on the Rivals team. And in X and Y, they didn't even fucking use the new one that they introduced in this generation, so it's like, why even bother? And I know some people might like to say that Eevee is a mascot, so it makes sense for it to get this much attention. Well, you could say the same thing about Charizard, and Charizard has been a mascot for longer than Eevee has. Hell, you could argue that Charizard's been a mascot even longer than Pikachu has. So why is it okay when one mascot gets special treatment when the other one doesn't? I apologize for this completely unrelated tangent. I know this was supposed to be a video about Legends Z-A, but seeing people treat Charizard like it's the Antichrist or something is just like, it's insane, bro. But back to the actual relevant stuff. One thing that was nice to see is that people seem to be pretty happy with the way that the game looks. By modern day standards, this doesn't exactly scream AAA, but it's definitely way better than Scarlet and Violet. And unless you're a Pokemon Legends Arceus meat rider, then really the only game that this comes second to is Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee. Personally, I think the game looks fine, and even if it didn't, as long as the gameplay itself is fun, really that's all we can ask for. That's just about all I have to say. Overall, I'm very excited for this game and I can't wait for it to come out. I've been a proud Kalos Glazer for basically my entire time being a Pokemon fan. So finally feeling like Kalos is getting some love from the developers after it's been shafted for so long. I know we got some Hisuian forms in the last game, but Hisuian Avalugg sucks balls, and Hisuian Gudra is barely an improvement, so that shit does not count. Bottom line is, as a Kalos fan, it feels nice to actually feel like we're winning for once, and I hope that they do us good.
Staring at your dress cause it's see-through. Yeah, talking all the shit that you done been through. Yeah, say that you a lesbian, girl, me too.